How many of you have ever seen a street or club dance battle before? For those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, it can sound pretty aggressive. Street dance, battle. What is that? Well, first of all, let's discuss what it is not. It's not a dance off. It's not just busting out moves, especially if it's something you learned off a video game. It's not a sport, however, it can be athletic. And it's not exactly like every dance movie you've ever seen in Hollywood. For example, Honey, You Got Served, Save the Last Dance, Step Up 2, Step Up 3D, Step Up Revolution. I mean, don't get me wrong. I grew up loving watching these movies. The dancing is hype, and a lot of these movies were my first introduction to street and club dance culture. However, I've noticed this trend with these movies. They seem to tell you these classic tales of urban disenfranchised youth falling for rich privileged girls whom they have to dance battle their way to win their love. Like, yeah, maybe there's some truth to this, but it just makes me wonder if this is all that's ever being shown to you. What exactly is that teaching you about street and club dance? Okay, so what is street or club dance? Essentially, it is various styles of dance that have been birthed from the underground scene, either on the street, like hip hop popping, breaking, crumping, or in the club, like house, whacking, voguing. It's less about choreography and more about accessing a vocabulary of movement and then expressing it in the moment, off the cuff freestyle, as a natural response to music and the environment. All of these dance styles come from their own separate cultures, informed by specific genres of music, communities of people, and the kinds of events they gather in. It's also important to acknowledge that the era in which most of these dance cultures emerged often came from turbulent socio-political and economic conditions. I'm talking the 60s, 70s era. The pioneers who came up with these styles came from oppressed and underprivileged communities, specifically Black, Latino, queer, and everyone else who didn't fit into white America. At this point in time, the Bronx was burning. The crack epidemic was prevalent in both the East and West Coast, and young people discovering their homosexuality during a time it was so taboo meant being disowned from their families. Why do you think the battle emerged? As a platform to get out all of these feelings, to not actually physically hurt each other, but a creative outlet to express these times. It was so symbiotic to the creative revolution that was taking place in visual art and how music genres were evolving, which then informed the dance style and vice versa. It created a culture made up of people who found belonging in each other that they couldn't find anywhere else in society. At this point, it is beyond cool dance moves and a form of entertainment. I have to emphasize this because very often this is a whole world that is misunderstood, misrepresented, exploited, unrecognized, and underfunded. Facts. And that's got to change. And in many ways, it's starting to happen. Street and club dance culture has evolved immensely since then and has spread to communities and countries all over the world, including this one. Let me ask you a question. How many of you have ever walked down those steps behind the Vancouver Art Gallery and seen people dancing on that empty ice rink? Seemed kind of random, right? More than 20 years ago, dancers started coming out to utilize that empty plaza during the warmer months. It's got smooth floors, reflective office glass windows, even plug outlets. At a certain point, security guards managing that area wanted to keep dancers away, thinking they were loitering. Dancers pushed back, writing official letters saying it was ridiculous to ban dancing in a public space, one that had proven itself to be such a positive place for young people to be in. And no one could deny that. Today, you can see dance workshops, practices, sessions happening in all these different styles almost all year round. And this is actually how the Vancouver Street Dance Festival, or VSDF as we like to call it, was born, right there at Robson Square. which to me is one of the most culturally utilized public spaces that I've ever seen. This festival happens as a platform annually to connect our street dance culture to the general public. Usually, for a festival this size to gain that kind of audience, it requires the draw of a huge cash prize or incentive. But people don't come for that reason. People come because they know it's a vibe. These days, battling has progressed beyond a means of survival to being a fun, challenging, sometimes real intense and aggressive energy exchange between two dancers or crews of dancers. It's a language being spoken without words. And for anyone who's ever witnessed the rawness of this kind of exchange before, understands. It's captivating. I was 21 years old living in Toronto when I went to my first jam. I walked into the venue and I saw dance ciphers, DJs, and battles happening in all these different styles I'd never seen before. I was hooked and I wanted to get involved. So I started documenting battles and events as a photographer and videographer. Soon became good friends with the community. I became known in the scene as that guy, just yelling, cheering, giving energy to the battle, rushing over to be in my people's corner whenever their name got called up. Fast forward, a couple years later, I moved back to Vancouver and right away got involved with the local scene here. I became known here as that guy, once again, just always yelling things, being everybody's hype woman, until one day, somebody decided it would be a good idea to give me a microphone and start emceeing these things. Guess which event was my first ever hosting gig? Yup, VSDF. That first year, scary, exhilarating, but basically a done deal from there. I really felt like I found my belonging in this community by being the one to create the space and facilitate the energy between people at these events, as an MC, as an event producer, and curator. It really is my passion to connect this community with other music, arts, and culture communities within our city and with other cities across countries. You know, it's a misconception that in order to be part of this culture, you have to battle. Do I dance? Yes, of course. I'm Filipino. The groove is in my blood and being celebratory is in my nature. If I'm at a party and I hear good music, you best believe I'm dancing. But I'm not necessarily in this culture to battle. I'm in it to explore myself through movement, to find freedom in the dance, and to maybe encourage others who never thought to do so to find their own unique connection to this form of expression. The Vancouver street dance community has had a huge impact on my personal journey, and I know I'm not the only one. Over the last 7 years of having VSDF, I've seen this city impacted by this festival in multiple ways, and I've got a list. 1, the community is growing with new faces. The number of people that I'm now seeing attend sessions and support community events, it's multicultural, it's multi-generational. People are actually learning about our culture by participating in it, not just being screen locked on Netflix and YouTube and just paying attention to whatever's being shown to them on the internet. 2, the city is starting to see us. We are emerging from the underground, wanting to share this culture to whoever wants to fall in love with it. It's only been in the last 2 years that we've been collaborating with various city organizations like Van Mural Fest and City of Vancouver to activate streets and public spaces with dance. We are being appreciated, we're starting to get support, because people recognize we are an integral energy that helps bring life to these spaces. 3, the existing community that are still here are thriving. They are mentoring the next generation. They're traveling to other cities to battle, rep, gain inspiration, and level up their skills. They're throwing events almost every weekend now, and they're supporting each other's micro-communities by actually showing up. I mean, yes, there is the spirit of competition in a battle, and yes, sometimes that's the outlet to work out some conflict, but there's a loving maturity that I'm seeing arise in this community where people are starting to embrace positive connection versus contributing to separation. As a result of this vibe, people from all over the world are starting to come live here, learn, and exchange. People specifically from Japan come here on working holiday visa just to connect with us. And now, even Canada's arts and culture meccas, like Toronto and Montreal, are starting to invest being here because they see something special is happening. You see, when it comes to street and club dance culture, it doesn't matter how old, how young you are, where you come from, or how you identify. It's not just about executing moves to look good, but to feel good when you do them. It's an art form that's expressing what is true of these times, what is happening here in Vancouver, Canada, socially, politically, economically, personally, and artistically. Dance is a language that crosses all barriers. It really is about the relationship between music, movement, space, and the intrinsic way in which it can allow us to experience genuine connection, something that we as human beings all need and desire. Thank you.